Base check window.
Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to KTB Web Services. My name is Keith, and in this video we're going to check out Python variables while using a screen reader. Now, we're going to be using JAWS 2020 screen reader, and we're going to be looking at this in Windows command prompt, and we'll be writing code just straight from the Python terminal on the command line. So before we get started, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button if you would like, and click the notification icon to get alerts whenever I come out with new videos. If you've been here before, thank you very much for watching again, and if you're a subscriber already, I appreciate it, and thank you very much. Let's go ahead and get into the video. The first thing I'm going to do is open up my command prompt, so I'm going to press the Windows key.
Search box edit, type in text.
And we're going to type CMD.
Enter command prompt, comma, app, comma, press right to switch preview, Microsoft Windows left bracket version 1.
Alright, so we're going to have this open, and the first thing we want to do, now we're going to be, I'm running Python 3.8.2, the x64, and again I'm using JAWS 2020 screen reader, and then we're going to check out these variables, what to do, what not to do, things you can and can't do. So the first thing you want to do is on your command line type Python, press enter.
Python, enter, Python 3.8.2 left parent act.
Alright, so we're going to get, if we read our current line,
Greater.
we hear greater, or the three greater signs, and if we look at our title,
Command prompt dash Python.
command prompt dash Python. So we are in the terminal right now. So the first thing I want to do is turn both characters and words on my screen reader, just temporarily. So in JAWS, that's JAWS key 2.
Both characters and words.
Alright, so what we want to do now is, first I want to tell you how to review real quick. So you want to get to your JAWS cursor, which on a desktop is going to be your minus sign on your numpad, and on a laptop it is JAWS key P as in Papa.
JAWS.
So you would just access this cursor, and then you would you can control home to get to the top of the window, and then down arrow and up arrow to be able to read line by line. So I'm not actually going to go through that because the only thing we have is from where we open the window up and went into Python. So I'm going to get back in the PC cursor, and let's get started on our variables. So the first thing to note about a variable is how to declare it. So to declare a variable, you just give it a name. In this case, we can name a variable name. So
N-A-M-E.
Alright, so we give it a name, and then the next thing we do is we use an assignment operator, because we're going to use this variable as a container, and we take and assign a value to the name in order to be able to use that throughout the code. And the goal there is to be able to take a variable and reassign it if need be. So you might want to start with a variable as false, and if a condition comes true, you set that variable to true. Otherwise, you want it to stay false. So, and that would be an example. All right. So let me clear, I apologize for that. Let me clear this notification. Get back out of that, get back into the prompt. Okay, so the next thing about a variable is, like I said, we're going to take this assignment. We're going to say name, so N-A-M-E, and we're going to equals, because that's our assignment operator, and then we want to type a value. So in this example, we're just going to use a string, which we'll talk about in the next video. And so to write a string, we're just going to type quote, and then the name. So I'm going to type my name, Keith, and then quote, and I need to set both characters and words back.
Quote, Keith, quote, both characters and words.
Okay, and you hear that's what I typed after I change the characters and words. So now I'm going to read this line.
Greater name equals quote, Keith, quote.
So first we declare our variable with a variable name. and then we set it equal to a value. So really we're setting that value equal to this variable. So when you write a variable name, it is case sensitive. So if I was to write name with an uppercase N, so name equals Keith. If we press enter to store this into Python's memory.
Enter, greater.
Alright, so we have it to call on if we would like. Now I'm going to create another variable, but this time I'm going to give it a capital N.
N-A-M-E.
Alright, I'm going to set it
Name
equal to another string.
Quote.
So I type quote, quote. I get in the middle of those quotes, and we want to, and I just left there to put the cursor in the middle. And then we want to type, let's say Bob.
B-O-B.
And we're going to press enter.
Bob, enter. Name equals quote, Bob, quote. Greater.
Okay, so now we have two variables stored into memory, one with a lowercase n, one with a capital N. Let's call on that lowercase. So if we print, which is a function in Python, we
E-R-I-N-T.
we type print left parenthesis, and then we type the variable, so name with a lowercase n,
N-A-M-E.
and then close that parenthesis, so
Name,
right parenthesis, and then we want to press enter.
Enter, Keith, greater.
And you hear Keith. Now we stored the second one as Bob, so let's print that. So we'll type
E-R-I-N-T.
left parenthesis,
Print left parent.
and then type with a capital N name,
N-N-N-A-M-E.
and then right parenthesis,
Name, right parent.
and press enter.
Enter, Bob, greater.
Okay, and you hear Bob. So it sees those things as two different instances, or two different entities is what I would call it. So the next thing to note about a variable is you cannot have any type of special characters like %sign or the number sign. These things are already stored into Python and used, so we're not allowed to use them in variable names. So for example, if I was to type number sign var equals, and then just an integer, which is you just type a number, so 2, and press enter.
Enter, greater.
Now it's just going to store that as a comment, because remember, a single line comment starts with a number sign. Now if we were to try to call on that variable, so print
print left parent
var
V-A-R,
and press enter.
var enter dot.
Oh, okay, so we have to end it with that parenthesis. I forgot about that.
Right parent.
Alright, and I hear dot, I type my parenthesis and I press enter.
Enter, traceback left parent most recent, call last right parent colon, file quote less than greater quote comma, line 1 comma, unless module greater, name error colon, name apostrophe, var apostrophe is not defined. Alright,
so name var is not defined. So you hear it's not here. Now, if I was to type var
A-R,
and then the number sign,
var number,
and then equals, and then 2, and we press enter.
Enter, traceback left parent most recent, call last right parent colon, file quote less than greater quote comma, line 1 comma, unless module greater, name error colon, name apostrophe, var apostrophe is not defined. Greater.
Alright, so you hear
greater.
Let me see what that. So it's not defined is what it says, but let me type that again.
Var number equals 1.
We'll do var number equals 2. Press enter.
Enter. Traceback left parent most recent, call last right parent colon, file quote less than greater quote comma, line 1 comma, unless module greater, name error colon, name apostrophe, var apostrophe is not defined. Greater.
Okay, so it still gives us a crazy error. Var is not defined. So see, it's if we were to type it how it's supposed to be, so var equals 2 and press enter.
Greater.
So now it's going to give us it's stored in a memory, and if we were to print var,
print
left parenthesis var, make sure we close it,
right parent,
press enter,
and
we get our value, which is 2. Okay, so that would be the same idea with the @ sign. It's going to give you the same type of error. So that's more of like a syntax error. And another thing is you cannot start a variable with a number. So if I was to type
One.
1 and then name
N-A-M-E.
equals,
One name equals.
and then Keith,
Quote.
so quote,
A-E-I-T-H. Quote. Quote Keith. Quote. Enter. File. Quote less than greater. Quote comma. Line 1. One name equals. Quote Keith. Quote. Caret. Syntax error. Colon. Invalid syntax. Greater.
okay,
greater.
so you hear invalid syntax. So that's another thing. We can't start a variable with a number. So we've looked at how they're case sensitive. We saw how we can't use special characters. We see that a variable cannot start with a number. Now you can type as long as you start it with a character or a letter or an underscore. You can type a number after it. And that's another thing. You can start a variable name with an underscore, but usually it's only when you're assigning it to a specific type of data. Now, the last thing to note is when you're typing variables is to, if you're going to abbreviate a variable, so like count, if you're going to type C-O-N-T, you need to stick with that wherever you're going to reassign it or use it. Now, if you're going to take and rename it somewhere, you want to make sure that you stick with that name all the way through. So, and that's the biggest thing, is making sure that you stay consistent. It makes it much easier to debug code, and it makes it much more readable for others, especially if you're doing what most programmers do, which is collaborating in a team of some sort. So that is the last thing to finish up with the variable here. Now, whenever you're using a variable, the idea is to be able to use it anywhere, to be able to spread it out. Instead of having to type the value again and again, you want to be able to use it throughout your code. And what I mean by that is if I was to take
space
and say name
N-A-M-E.
equals,
Name equals.
and then a string, and which would be my name.
Quote. A-E-I-T-H. Quote.
So we put our quotes, we press enter,
Quote Keith. Quote. Enter. Greater.
and we store that into memory. Now if I wanted to print out a string, a message to a user, and it's going to be a different username each time because it's a different person logged in. So if we wanted to have a print statement, so print
E-R-I-N-T. Print
left parenthesis. Now we're going to type a quote or a string here, so we
Quote.
type a quote, and then we want to say
H.
welcome.
W-E-L-C-O-M-E. Quote welcome.
So we're going to say welcome to your dashboard, and then the name. So, and this is how we're going to concatenate a variable into a string. All right, so we've got welcome.
E-O-U-R-D-A-S-H-B-O-A-R-D.
Okay, so to concatenate, to bring this variable into the string, we just stop the string by ending our quote.
Quote.
All right, and then to bring in a string variable with a data type of a string, we type the plus sign, so shift
Dashboard quote plus
equals, so that's going to give us our plus sign, and then you want to type the name of your variable, which in our case is name,
N-A-M-E.
and then we want to type the plus sign to end it,
Name plus
and then we get our quote, we type a quote to get back into our string, and then we just want to end with punctuation because we're going to end this sentence with a period. And then you want to end your string with a quote, and then end your print function with a right parenthesis. Now here we can press enter, and now listen.
Enter. Welcome to your dashboard, Keith, period. Greater.
And we spelled dashboard wrong, but you hear it. Let's hear it again. We're going to up arrow to read our current line.
Greater, print left parent, quote, welcome to your dashboard, quote, plus name, plus quote, period, quote, right parent.
Oh, I see. So we have it put together. So to go back through your line, we can use arrows to edit this line.
End. Quote here, quote, plus E-M-A-N, plus quote, D-R-A-O-B-H-S-A-S-H-B-O-A-R-D,
so dashboard,
quote.
And then I'm going to put a space after the dashboard,
Space, quote,
and in between the quote. And that way, so it puts a space on that line, and we press enter.
Enter. Print left parent quote welcome to your dashboard quote plus name plus quote period. Quote right parent welcome to your dashboard Keith period. Greater.
And there you go. So you first heard it said what we typed out, and then it spoke what the program processed. So welcome to your dashboard Keith. So you hear that the variable that we stored the value of Keith, and we stored that under name, and we just take and concatenate using the plus signs and then the variable name, and it will place it into the string. So if a different user came in, it would say their name instead. Okay, so that there is going to end it for the variables. And then just to show you real quick, to get out of this, just to get back to your regular command prompt, you press Control Z.
Undo _Z.
And then you press enter.
Enter. C:\users /Keith Blackwelder greater.
And in my case, it announces the directory it puts me back in if I read my title, JAWS key T.
Command prompt.
And we hear just command prompt. Now, just to get out of this, you type exit, and then so it's
E-X-I-E.
And then left parenthesis, right parenthesis.
Exit right parent.
And then press enter.
Enter. Desktop folder view list.
Okay, so it's going to exit out of that. And that is going to conclude our video. Again, if you are new here, please subscribe, and I will be coming out with more videos like this. The next video for this series will be on strings. So I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching.
Ops 2 5 points.